Some of my first memories of my childhood were of my mother telling me that my father didn't love me.
I felt closest to my mom when we were talking crap about my dad.
If I rejected my dad, I felt like I was getting my mom's approval.
Question, do I really know this person? Are they actually who my alienator said they were?
I had this overwhelming sense of having to protect my mom.
In her mind, she truly believes everything she's saying, that my dad was a terrible person all the time.
But just think about how sick it is that the parent teaches the child to hate and then enjoys watching them hate.
I did start asking questions, and I did want to fact check.
Making splashes and holding hands with my children.
Hi, I'm Maddie, and welcome back to the Anti-Alienation Project, where I talk about all things related to parental alienation. Last year, I discovered the truth that I had been alienated from my dad for 20 years, and since then, I've been speaking out about this form of abuse. A lot of parents have contacted me wanting to know how they can go about reconnecting with their child. Say their child has reached out, or say that custody is about to be reversed, and parents are pretty on edge and feeling stressed out about how they're going to interact with their child, make their child comfortable, reconnect with their child, and hopefully rebuild the relationship. Since I actually have been going through this since last year, I thought that maybe I would be able to give some insight to parents who are in this particular situation. Also, I have read some research conducted by the University of Tasmania that does provide some insight into what works best for reconnecting with your alienated child. Number one, from the research studies I've read, and you can find them in the video that I've already done, all the research suggests that the best way for targeted parents to go about rebuilding the relationship with their alienated child is to let it be a child-led process. Allow your child to take the lead. Don't bring up questions about the past. Don't bring up questions about their alienator. Just let them take the lead. You follow their pace as if you're running beside them and they're running really fast. You got to catch up and run faster. If they want to take a slow jog, then you got to do a slow jog. Let them lead the process. For my own personal view, for so long, 20 years, I really had no voice. I had no control. I had no power in my life. And that agency is something that a lot of alienated kids really lack. So it would be great to just let them lead the way. Number two, I remember last year I was super confused, and there were times where I needed to ask my dad certain questions. My dad did not want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about anything that had happened in the past. I mean, for him, it was 20 years ago. You know, he's had time to grieve. He's had time to process all of this. And for me, it was brand new. I was traumatized by the truth, and I was trying to learn like what had happened and put the pieces together. You know, he really does not want to talk bad about my mom. He doesn't want to tell me things that might hurt me. So I really struggled with getting information out of him. If you are a targeted parent who might be in this situation, I do think it's important to be able to tell your child the truth of what happened without bad-mouthing their other parent. So that's number two, like don't badmouth their other parent, don't put them down negatively, even though you have every right to. And here's why. The child is trying to gather facts, gather information and data about whether they can trust you, about who you actually are. And they've been so accustomed to a parent that badmouths, puts down, and hates their other parent. So to see you doing that would be natural for them, but to see you not doing that is going to show them that you are the healthier parent, the more loving parent. I mean, that just says a lot to me that my dad won't talk bad about my mom when he has every right to, and when she talks bad about him nonstop. Number three, don't focus on the past. Focus on the present, focus on the future. There's one caveat to this, is if your child brings up the past and needs specific questions answered, it's important to be able to give them the information they need to move forward, to understand their life, to heal. You can give them that information, or it might be better to allow someone else in your life, perhaps a step-parent or grandparent or aunt or uncle, to provide them with that necessary information they need to move forward. For example, what solidified in my head the alienation was an event where the cops showed up, there was a domestic violence charge, etc., and that really solidified things for me in terms of not wanting a relationship with my dad, rejecting him, and believing all these negative things about him. And I needed the information last year to know that that was a setup, and to know that that was a bunch of fabrications, that I only heard one side of the story, for example. But it wasn't my dad that gave me that information, because he didn't want to hurt me. He didn't want to put my mom in a negative light. And to me, that said everything, and that's what I needed to know to determine who was the healthier parent. Hopefully you can have someone in your life, be able to provide them with that information, and you can focus on the present, you can focus on the future. Try to be like a glass half full everyday type of person for them, because as the child is going through this process, they are confused, depressed, angry, every emotion in the book, and they need you to be a source of positivity, fun, laughter, hope, joy, stability, and strength. And that's what you can provide for them. And number 4, show them through your actions that you are reliable, and that you're not the person they were made to believe that you are. Whether or not your child just comes out and tells you what they were made to believe about you, you can just go ahead and assume the worst, I think. That you are selfish, that you are crazy, that you don't love them, that you are abusive. Take all of those things and think about how you can demonstrate to them who you truly are. The other way that it works too is that the alienator often blows any flaws that you have or any mistakes that you make out of proportion. A big, way out of proportion. So you can think about any of those flaws, and you can try really hard not to make mistakes. And let me try to explain what I mean here, because I've talked to other child survivors in the support group I created that also agree with me on this point. When you're an alienated child, the alienator takes all these flaws and mistakes that your targeted parent makes and blows them out of proportion and uses it to reinforce the fact that they don't love you, they are abusive, they don't care, whatever it is. I always go back to this example, but it's just so clear in my head. No one is perfect, and my dad has a problem, or he used to have a problem with being late. He just was late often. And so before my dad would even arrive at the house to pick up my brothers, before my dad would even arrive at the house, my mom would say things like, oh, I bet your dad's going to be late again. You don't need to get ready until 30 minutes after he's going to get here. And then my dad would be late, and she'd say, oh, your dad's late. I wish he cared more about you. I wish he respected your time. I wish he actually cared about spending time with you and could be on time for once. So so she would use that little thing, people are late all the time. I'm late sometimes. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, but she would use that to blow it out of proportion and to reinforce your dad doesn't love you, he doesn't care about you, etc. So now, reconnecting with my dad, that has been a little bit of a trigger, for example. I hate the word trigger, but it is applicable here. For example, now, when I'm trying to rebuild my relationship with my dad and figure out who he actually is, if he's late, guess what happens? Well, my brain has been trained to say all of those things when he's late. So if my dad's late, it's, oh, he doesn't care about you. Yeah, he is the person mom was making you believe. He doesn't care about your time. Why can't he actually love you? My brain will go there still. That's because it's been trained to do so. So I know it sounds so annoying, and I hate that people are in this position, but for the sake of your alienated child, you can try to think of any triggers that, I don't know if that can be helpful in some way. Maybe you can try to think of some triggers that they've been told about you, if you have any of that knowledge, and make sure that you show them that you're the opposite. It might sound silly. I know being late is not a big deal, but for the alienated child desperately wanting to figure out the truth about who their parents are and what has happened to them, it's important to avoid as many of those triggers as possible. This is something that's kind of unavoidable. At times it will happen, and that's when you just need to be really reassuring to them that you love them, that you care about them. Number 5, the alienated child who has been with their alienator for months, years, decades, I can just go ahead and say that I'm willing to bet they have not received unconditional love from their alienator. They have not received acceptance, full acceptance and support, and that warm, comforting type of parental love. I say all of this because essentially the alienated child has been starved of love. If they've been living full-time with their alienator, they have been starved of true unconditional love that you're supposed to get from your parents. And that's what they need from you. Right off the bat last year, when I figured out the truth and I told my dad everything I believed about him, which I still somewhat believed about him at the time. Super scary, actually. That same night, he said some stuff to me that my mom has never said and that I've always wanted her to say. And he said it. And those were things that he said that included, Maddie, I love the person you are. I'm so proud to be your dad. You're a great mom, you're a great wife, you're a great daughter. I'm proud to call you my daughter. I would say all these statements, they'll come off a little too strong at first, so maybe hold off until the right moment to tell your child these things and make sure they know that you love the person they are. Because more often than not, what they've been getting from their alienator is constant criticism, put-downs, manipulation, gaslighting, the whole 9 yards. Last but not least, to focus on creating fun, new, and exciting memories with your children. Take them places they've never been before. Do challenges together. Go hike to the top of a mountain. Go do an escape room. Take them places that they've never been before. Do things that neither of you have ever done before. Anything to produce serotonin and dopamine and adrenaline and all of those good chemicals. Make new memories. Start from today and focus on the present. Go on trips. Do whatever you can to make them laugh, make them smile. This is not the end of the road for you and your child. This is just the beginning. I see a lot of parents who feel like they're walking on a tightrope. They're afraid to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, then their child will just leave them forever. And I get it. I really do. I understand why parents would feel this way. And if I were in that position, I'm sure I would feel the same. I just want to reassure you, though, of 2 things. 1, you are their parent. No one can take that away from you. You will always be their parent. Whether or not they learn the truth today, next month, next year, or in 20 years, you are their parent. And no one can take that away from you. So steady yourself in that truth that you are their parent. And number 2, you know them. Listen, I know that probably a lot of people are thinking right now, no, Maddie, I don't know them anymore. I haven't seen my children in 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I haven't seen them. They're different people. I don't know them. I would challenge that, especially if you had a foundation years in their early childhood. They say that the personality is generally formed by the age of 5. They are the same person at their core for the most part, and you do know them. So take comfort in the fact that you are their parent and you do know them. It's a matter of breaking through those false beliefs, false accusations, everything that they've been brainwashed to think and believe about you. Time also is a big component here. Even just 1 year later, I can say that I feel so much more at peace when I'm with my dad, calm when I'm with my dad. I'm able to express myself more freely. And last year was a process of gaslighting myself like every day throughout the day. Am I right? Am I wrong? What's true? What's not true? And now I have a much stronger sense of knowing what's happened and knowing who he is. And I know that with time that will only improve and I will know more and more who he actually is. And the same thing is true when you're reconnecting with your alienated child. It might take a lot of time, but be that constant source of comfort, support, and unconditional love for them, and that will attract them back. Anyways, that's the L for this video. I hope this has been helpful or insightful for people who are going through this specific scenario. If you enjoy this video or more content that I'm sharing, please subscribe. If you would like to become a member, that's a great option as well. I do live Q&As the first Sunday of every month. Also, if you would like to become involved, I've had a lot of parents reach out to me wanting to become involved with my project in some way, whether that's financially or volunteering their time or expertise. I'm working on setting up a nonprofit and putting together a volunteer committee. If you would like to become involved in any way, please reach out to me at the Anti-Alienation Project at gmail.com. As well, I want to talk to child survivors of parental alienation. I've put together a support group and it's been wonderful. It's really helped me and my healing process accelerate to be able to connect with others who've been through it. Super helpful. I know it might be scary at first, but if you feel like that's something that could help you, please feel free to reach out. Again, email the Anti-Alienation Project at gmail.com. Also, if you want to stay connected with me, I share different things across different platforms sometimes, so be sure to find me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. I just decided to do everything so I could reach the most amount of people. As always, I hope you guys have a good day, and thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.